a terrorist missile or one that was accidentally fired by our own Navy. Meanwhile, government agencies, the FBI and the National Transportation Safety Board, insist the crash was the result of some onboard mechanical failure. But why are we still exploring this mystery at all? Wasn't there a massive investigation by the FBI and other agencies? That, in fact, is the problem. A number of independent investigators, family members, and co-workers believe the evidence points not to an onboard mechanical failure, but to something official sources can't or won't identify. Why is it that the nation's most competent and well-funded investigative agencies, after thousands of man-hours of sifting through the evidence, have failed to convince private investigators, family members, and the eyewitnesses that their conclusions are correct?
So many people have a hard time accepting the official report because it simply bears no relationship to the eyewitness accounts, to the physical evidence, or to the physics of flight.
At 8:19 p.m., a Boeing 747 labeled TWA Flight 800 took off from Kennedy Airport and turned east along the south shore of Long Island. The skies were fair, and the aircraft proceeded without incident, but within minutes, the aircraft exploded, sending tons of twisted metal and all 230 persons aboard plunging into the sea. Who were the eyewitnesses to this tragedy, and what did they say?
Actually, there were 736 official eyewitnesses who saw most or all of the events leading up to, during, and after the crash of TWA 800. Some of these eyewitnesses were in remarkable vantage points. Dwight Brumley was actually on U.S. Air 217, headed north toward Providence, Rhode Island. His flight was about 7,000 feet above TWA 800.
Despite my vantage point of being directly over the top of the explosion, a very unique vantage point, some level of expertise, understanding relative bearing, true bearing, motion, etc. Nobody with any aviation expertise ever contacted me.
I gave the FBI a sketch showing the sequence of events that I saw in the sky that night. The red phosphorescent object, the streaks of light, the flashes of light, the contrails, the cigar-shaped cloud, the explosion of fireball that dropped into the sea. I saw 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 explosions before the fireball.
According to NTSB Exhibit 4A, the Witness Group Factual Report, there were 96 eyewitnesses who saw streaks of light ascending toward TWA 800 from the surface. Even radar picked it up. At 8:31, FAA radar operators saw what they thought was an object which merged with TWA 800. FAA records show that they quickly reported this anomaly to the highest authorities.
Are all of these witnesses describing a missile? If so, where did it come from? Who fired it, and why?
A number of scenarios have been suggested, including the idea that friendly fire, or even our own military, brought down TWA Flight 800 through some bizarre miscalculation. We know from several sources that there were classified military operations taking place that evening just south of the Long Island coast, on the surface, in the air, and underwater, at the same time that TWA Flight 800 took off. It's possible that the aircraft accidentally intruded into a simulated intercept scenario that could have involved target vehicles. In a rare malfunction, an intercept missile or missiles could have locked onto the civilian airliner or intercepted its course, and the 747 was hit instead of the original target. And if that is what happened, 2 glaring questions immediately come to mind. Why would there have been possibly dangerous military exercises so close to one of the busiest airports in the world? And why would the government lie about the accident to the American people?
Could it be that the military has engaged civilian aircraft previously? At any given moment, the skies are filled with civilian aircraft, but does that mean the military would track and lock on to civilian aircraft during its exercises?
If it was a military exercise, they responded to the crash of Flight 800 in a rather odd manner. While dozens of boats of all shapes and sizes rushed to the scene where the plane fell into the ocean, 30 or more large surface vessels, as picked up on radar, appear to be speeding away from the crash scene, even though 50-foot flames are lighting up the night sky.
This is highly suspicious. It breaks every rule in the book. I don't care whether you're a civilian sports fisherman, whether you're a warship, or whether you're a high-speed private yacht that came over here and took a shot. They ran from one of the greatest air disasters in history. You don't do that at sea.
There was one vessel that was beneath TWA Flight 800 when it blew up. It was about 3 nautical miles away. It had been picked up by the islip radar, and it was southeast, doing about 30 knots, going away from the scene of the crash.
The ship is 2.5 miles away from the crash site. It's large enough to be picked up on radar, and it's moving at 30 knots. It's a large boat moving fast. The FBI refuses to identify this ship.
The crash debris was taken to a hangar here at a naval facility called Calverton Park in New York, where it was painstakingly reassembled. Authorities believed a bomb had somehow been smuggled aboard the plane. Since that would make it a criminal act, the FBI was brought in to head up the investigation.
Both the NTSB and the FBI were leaking to the press that the cause of the crash was an internal mechanical failure, in spite of the fact that all the evidence and all the witnesses were pointing to some external cause for the disaster.
The mystery